Hi everybody, I am going to talk about the reality therapy. Reality therapy, developed by Dr. William Glasser, is founded on the principles of choice theory and has developed into a widely popular and recognized therapy form. Professionals in education, mental health, social services, and even parents have embraced the fundamentals of this therapy. Reality therapy suggests that all human issues derive from a lack of fulfilling relationships with others. The goal of this therapy is to provide a connection for people, beginning with a therapist-client connection. At the end of my talk, you will be able to know the origin of reality therapy and the background of the founder. To grasp the basics of choice therapy, learn the method of applying the reality therapy. Let me briefly mention the origin of the reality therapy and the background of Dr. Glasser, its founder. Dr. Glasser is an internationally recognized psychiatrist who is best known as a developer of reality therapy, a method of psychotherapy he created in 1965 and that is now taught all over the world. Born in 1925 and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, Dr. Glasser was initially a chemical engineer but went into psychiatry when it became apparent to him that this was his real interest in life. He attended medical school at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland and took his psychiatric training at the Veterans Administration Hospital in West Los Angeles. He was in private practice from 1957 to 1986. Dr. Glasser's path has been one of a continuing progression from private practice to lecturing and writing and ultimately culminating in the publication of over 20 books. After writing the counseling book, Reality Therapy, in 1965, he published his first book on education, Schools Without Failure, in 1969. In the last 70s, Dr. Glasser was introduced to control theory systems through the writings of William T. Powers. In consultation with Powers, Dr. Glasser applied Powers' knowledge of how systems work to the field of human behavior. In his next key book, Choice Theory, in 1998, Dr. Glasser greatly expanded the understanding of motivation and behavior. He wrote another book, Warning: Psychiatry Can Be Hazardous to Your Mental Health, in 2003, to help people improve their mental health and happiness. In 2005, he produced a booklet defining mental health as a public health issue to provide a new resource for mental health professionals. Finally, in 2007, 8 Lessons for a Happier Marriage, which he co-authored with his wife, Carleen, became his third book to help couples learn important tools for improving their relationship. Let me outline the basic approach of Dr. Glasser. Dr. Glasser's approach is a non-traditional one. He did not believe in the concept of mental illness unless there is something organically wrong with the brain that can be confirmed by a pathologist. Very early, he came to the conclusion that genetically we are social creatures and need each other, and that the cause of almost all psychological symptoms is our inability to get along with the important people in our lives. By 1980, Dr. Glasser had begun to form the idea that led to choice theory. Why so many people are unhappy in their relationships? Unlike all other living creatures, only human beings are genetically driven by the need for power. We try to satisfy that need by using what he calls external control psychology, literally trying to force people to do what we want them to do. This struggle led to the symptoms described in his book, A Diagnostic and a Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which became the official manual of approved diagnostic terms for psychiatric diagnosis, published by the American Psychiatric Association in the year 1994. Dr. Glasser had maintained that if we were unable to figure out how to satisfy our power need by respecting each other, our days on earth were numbered. He offered the choice theory to replace external control and has dedicated the remainder of his life to teaching and supporting this idea. In 1967, he founded the Institute for Reality Therapy. Since that time, over 75,000 people worldwide have undergone the intensive training program to learn how to apply his ideas in their professional life. They have discovered that by using choice theory, their personal relationships have improved as well. Dr. Glasser devoted himself to teaching the world choice theory, a new psychology that explained human behavior. This new psychology was diametrically opposed to the psychology he believed most people in the world adhere to, which he termed external control psychology. Dr. Glasser believed external control psychology, with its postulate that our behavior is caused by people, situations, and things outside of us, promoted adversarial human relationships. Let me describe the choice theory. Reality therapy is based on choice theory developed by Dr. Glasser. The choice theory states that all we do is behave, that almost all behavior is chosen, and that we are driven by our genes to satisfy 5 basic needs: survival, love and belonging, power, freedom, and fun. Regardless of what had happened in the past, one can re-evaluate his or her current reality and choose behaviors that will help him or her to satisfy his or her needs more effectively now and in the future. When one learns to meet his or her needs effectively in the present, the influence of the past disappears. What underlies reality therapy is choice theory, which was based on control theory. Control theory focused on external control, whereas Dr. Glasser felt that inner control was important and most of our behavior, if not all, is internally motivated and chosen. He had the opinion that the most important need is for love and belonging, as being close and connected to the people we care about is a prerequisite to ensure the satisfaction of all our needs. Choice theory replaces external control psychology under 7 deadly habits with the 7 caring habits. External control is destructive to relationships and can destroy the ability people to find satisfaction in relationships, leading to disconnection. Dr. Glasser believed that being disconnected was a source of almost all human problems such as mental illness, drug addiction, violence, crime, school failure, spousal abuse, to mention a few. Let me present in a tabular form the list of 7 caring habits we should cultivate and 7 deadly habits that we should avoid as developed by Dr. Glasser. The 7 caring habits: supporting, encouraging, listening, accepting, trusting, respecting, and negotiating differences. The 7 deadly habits are criticizing, blaming, complaining, nagging, threatening, punishing, and bribing or rewarding to control. Dr. Glasser was of the opinion that our behavior is generated or chosen not because of external stimuli, however influential such stimuli might be, nor because of the past unresolved conflicts, but to fulfill one or more of the 5 basic needs that are universal and genetic. He suggested that teachers should cultivate the 7 caring habits and avoid the 7 deadly habits so that the teachers create an environment conducive to students' needs. Let me now explain the principles of choice theory. First, our basic needs: survival, health, and reproduction. These include the sexual drive and the physiological functions performed by the body in an attempt to establish and maintain our health and homeostasis. Love and belonging. These refer to the need to love and to be loved and to belong to a group. Self-worth or power. These are competence, self-esteem, and empowerment. Freedom. It is the ability to make choice and feel unrestrained and unconfined and having enough physical space. Fun and enjoyment. It also includes interest and play, which are essential for learning. Our quality world. Each one of us tries to fulfill the needs in very specific ways. We have an inner picture album, otherwise called quality world, of specific and unique wants or desires of how we best like to fulfill our needs. Frustration. The difference between what one wants and what one perceives he or she is getting from the environment causes one to generate specific behavior. Behavior is purposeful and it is intended to close a gap between what a person wants and what one perceives he is getting. Whether behavior is successful or unsuccessful, in either case, it is a best attempt by the person to fulfill his or her needs. Total behavior. Actions, thinking, feelings, and physiology are inseparable components of total behavior, and they are generated or chosen from within. Thus, most of them are choices. It is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to change directly our feelings and physiology purely by will alone, but we have an almost complete ability to change our actions and some ability to change what we think. When we change our actions and thinking, our feelings and physiology also change. Therefore, the reality therapist, instead of encouraging the client to talk too much on their upset feelings on which they have no control, focuses on their actions and thinking over which they have control. Perceptions and current reality. How one perceives the world around him or her and how he or she perceives himself or herself constitute a current reality. In therapy, the therapist makes the client evaluate and re-evaluate such perception of the current reality. Thus, the source of all behavior is in the here and now. The 10 axioms of choice theory. 1. The only person whose behavior we can control is our own. 2. All we can give another person is information. 3. All long-lasting psychological problems are relationship problems. 4. The problem relationship is always part of our present life. 5. What happened in the past has everything to do with what we are today, but we can only satisfy our basic needs right now and plan to continue satisfying them in future. 6. We can only satisfy our needs by satisfying the pictures in our quality world. 7. All we do is to believe. 8. All behavior is total behavior and is made up of 4 components, namely acting, thinking, feeling, and physiology. 9. All total behavior is chosen, but we only have direct control over the acting and thinking components. We can only control our feeling and physiology indirectly through how we choose to act and think. 10. All total behavior is designated by verbs and named by the part that is the most recognizable. Let me explain the method of the reality therapy. In reality therapy, questioning is used much more extensively than in any other type of therapies. The procedures are summarized as the WDEP system. The WDEP system provides a questioning framework, and each letter stands for a cluster of ideas. WDEP stands for want, doing and direction, evaluation and planning. W stands for asking clients about their wants, needs, perceptions, and the level of commitment. What one wants from others and from oneself is thoroughly analyzed. What are you doing and in which direction is your behavior taking you? The doing here extends to exploring all the 4 components of total behavior proper, which are actions, thinking, feelings, and physiology. By doing this, the therapist leads the client from the generalities to the specifics. The client will be asked to describe exactly what happened in terms of specific behaviors and the events of the specific day. It is to help the client to self-evaluate. The process of evaluation seems to be the heart of the reality therapy. Clients are asked to make self-evaluation of their specific behavior. This includes an extensive area of one's action, like the type of behavior, the appropriateness of a specific behavior, the attainability of the behavior desired, their thinking or self-talk, and the perceived level of control they exercise and the efficacy of their plans. Planning. The ultimate goal of reality therapy is to make a plan of action. Since clients can have control over their action, reality therapy focuses its attention on action. Since the 4 components of the total behavior are inseparable, by changing the action, the clients can change their thinking, feeling, and physiology. Sometimes we keep waiting to feel better in order to act, in which case we may have to wait forever. The characteristics of an effective plan are: 1. It is formulated by the client. 2. It is attainable or realistic. 3, it is put into action as soon as possible, and 4, it is within the complete control of the client. In his book Control Theory, Dr. Glasser expressed his view on current classroom management. We are far too concerned with the discipline, with how to make students follow rules, and not enough concerned with providing the satisfying education that would make our over-concern with the discipline unnecessary. Due to this, his control theory attempted to explain why students perform poorly in school and suggested changes to the classroom structure in order to improve their academic performance. Dr. Glasser felt that all student choices were based on 5 basic and universal needs. These needs include survival, love or belonging, freedom, fun, and power. In his choice theory, he reasons that 95% of all behavior problems in the classroom result from students attempting to fulfill their need for power. Dr. Glasser suggested that teachers employ the methods of reality therapy when dealing with student misbehavior. This involved avoiding past actions and forcing the student to respond to the following what questions. What the student was doing, what need was he or she fulfilling by doing this, what he or she was going to do to correct this behavior. Thus, the teachers avoid the negative reactions as detailed in the 7 deadly habits and transfer responsibility to the students. Dr. Glasser recommended that the teachers should enter into a contract with the student created by the student, focusing on what the student will do to correct the problem. He added that this was necessary because it forced the student who was lost in the symptom causing the behavior to reconnect with his real needs. Reinforcement is not a part of Dr. Glasser's overall approach, as he felt any consequence of an action, whether positive or negative, should be a natural one instead of a teacher-given one. If a teacher were to interfere, this would let the student off the hook and not teach him to take responsibility for his or her action. The use of punishment was also dismissed because of its inabilities to provide the student with responsibility, and because Dr. Glasser felt that it had been proven ineffective by the American judicial system. Glasser's method of confronting students about their behavior led into what he felt was extremely important in the classroom, a classroom meeting. During these meetings, students and teachers sit in a circle facing each other to talk through problems. The teacher leads the class through these possible types of meetings. They are the open-ended, educational, assessment-oriented, and problem-solving, all of which allow the students to confront others about problems they see in a mature and calm manner. At the end of the meeting, the teacher and students should have a plan that is agreed upon by all, just like the contract created in the teacher-student situation. 20 scholars across the United States have adopted Dr. Glasser's philosophy and created what he termed quality schools. Let me mention the criteria for the quality schools. 1. Relationships are based upon trust and respect, and all discipline problems, not incidents, have been eliminated. 2. total learning competency is stressed and an evaluation that is below competence or what is now a B has been eliminated. All schooling as defined by Dr. Glasser have been replaced by useful education. All students do some quality work each year that is significantly beyond competence. All such work receives an A grade or higher, such as an A+. 4. Students and staff are taught to use choice theory in their lives and in their work in school. Parents are encouraged to participate in study groups to become familiar with the ideas of Dr. Glasser. 5. Students do better on state proficiency tests and college entrance examinations. The importance of these tests is emphasized in the school. 6. Staff, students, parents, and administrators perceive the school as a joyful place. Dr. Glasser's reality therapy is a process that is people-friendly and people-centered and has nothing to do with giving people a dose of reality as a threat or punishment. An understanding of the reality therapy and choice theory can help us make our clients in casework assessment to make better choices in life and help them to recognize how fantasy can distract them from their choices they control in life. Choice theory asserts that each of us is a self-determining being who can choose future behaviors and hold ourselves consciously responsible for how we are acting, thinking, feeling, and also for our physiological states. It will enable us better to explain how each of us attempts to control our world and those within that world. Let me sum up. Dr. Glasser, the father of choice theory, believed that people choose destructive behavior to reduce the pain of unsatisfying relationships. Reality therapy aims to bring about awareness that behavior or external control psychology is a personal choice and not a biochemical impulse or mental illness beyond a person's control. Reality therapy is based on choice theory, which offers an explanation for healthy as well as unhealthy behavior. All are motivated to satisfy the innate needs of survival or self-preservation, love and sense of belonging, self-worth or power, freedom or independence, and fun or enjoyment. While some make healthy choices, some others make unhealthy and destructive choices. Dr. Glasser's theory can be used to help people make better choices. Highlighted in his work are the critical interactions between therapist and client and the application of useful techniques in reality therapy. In this age of managed care, where restrictions on the number of visits limit the use of psychotherapy, reality therapy might be a better alternative to expensive psychiatric drugs. Let me sign off now and hope to see you in another session. Thank you.